Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to gain 100 to 150 elo in 2 months. Now I'm not going to guarantee that you do this, but I am going to guarantee that if you do the things I say in my video, you are going to get better results and you are going to improve. Okay, so I've been studying chess improvement a lot, and I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what actually works and what's important and what's not important. Okay, and I'm going to share that with you in this video. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand is that it all depends on tactics. Tactics is the main thing that you need to do to improve. Now, that's not the only thing. I'm not just going to say do tactics and you'll get 100 elo. Okay, but tactics is how most games are decided. And if you finish a game and you go to game review, you see all the stats and you see the rating graph, and it like starts in the middle. Not the rating graph, the like who is winning during the game, right? And it starts in the middle because it's equal in the opening, and then maybe it jumps up, maybe it jumps down, maybe it jumps down, up, right? And then those big jumps decide the game, right? Like it might go slightly up like this, but like if it goes like this after, then it going like this doesn't matter, right? So these big jumps are decided by tactics. So you really gotta study tactics so that these jumps are in your favor. If you can't spot tactics, then you'll miss out on the jumps in your favor. And if you make tactical blunders, then your opponent will get a big jump. Okay, so that's the first thing. Tactics are important. Okay, and so you know tactics are important. So what do you actually study and how do you study? Okay, so you need to study tactics first of all, but I'm gonna give you a system for this. So you want to study tactics, and you gotta understand like what the tactics are, and then you gotta train them with puzzles. Okay, so that's like pretty much how you study tactics. You understand the tactics, so you can say, let's say you're not good at spotting skewers. You want to be able to spot skewers, so you go learn what a skewer is, and then you practice it. You go to leechess or chess.com, and you do like just skewer puzzles. You go to tactical mod fit skewer all skewer puzzles, right? And then you do like 20, 30, 50, 100, however many skewer puzzles, and then you do that until you can spot them instantly. And then once you're able to spot them instantly, then you've got good at that tactic. And then you go on to the next one, and you go on to the next one. And that's pretty much how you study tactics. But you can't just study tactics. There's two other parts that you have to do. So the second part is you need to study other stuff as well. So that could be the end game, that could be the middle game, that could be the opening. And there are two frameworks I'm going to give you on this to know what to study. So the first is you want to work backwards. Start with the end game, then go to the middle game, then go to the opening. The reason you want to start with the end game is because that's where the game is decided. And to make sure that decision is that you win, you need to learn the end game so you can convert a winning advantage. But to get the winning advantage, to get a good end game position so you can get the win in the end game, like you need to know what to do in the middle game and opening. Like pretty much the end game is where the game is decided. You need to study the end game so that you know what a good end game looks like, so that you can work towards that in the opening and the middle game. So that could mean like in the end game you want to promote a queen, so you learn that end game that pawn structure is important. So because you want to promote a queen, and it's easier to do that if your pawns are connected, now you know to avoid making or creating isolated pawns in the opening or the middle game, right? And then so like stuff like that, and that's why you want to work backwards, okay? The other framework I'm going to give you on what to study in terms of positional stuff is you want to study like what's holding you back.
It's 3:30.
And this is like the theory of constraints, right? And this should be, well, first of all, this is applicable to much more than just chess, right? But applying it to chess, like imagine, like usually there are like a few specific things or one specific thing that's stopping you from improving or stopping you from winning games. So that could be your tactics, that could be your endgame. Maybe you get good positions, but you don't know how to convert them, or something like that. So pretty much, um, you want to study what your constraint is, and I'll tell you how to find what your constraint is in the next part. But first, I'll just tell you you want to study your constraint. So, um, you could be constrained by your endgame. You could be constrained by your middle game, um, your tactics, your conversion skills, a bunch of different things. And pretty much the idea with theory of constraints is it's inherently the highest leverage thing or highest value thing you can do because it's what's holding you back. Okay, so you want to figure out the theory, figure out what's holding you back, and then study that. Okay, so the second part of study, positional study, is study what's holding you back, and study endgame first, middle game second, opening last. Okay, but theory of constraints is more important than that. Okay, and you might think like, oh, that's good. Like I'll study what's holding me back, but how do you know what's holding you back? And that brings me to part three. Part three of your study plan is playing games and reviewing games. So you need to play games. Um, well, if you don't play any games, your rating stays the same, right? But you also need to play games to implement what you've studied. The less so the tactics, sort of the tactics, but also the other stuff, the positional study you did. You want to play games so that you can implement that. And then you need to review your games because once you review your games, well, first of all, you can learn from your mistakes. But more importantly, when you review your games, you see why you won or lost. Okay? And when you see why you won or lost, that's what's holding you back. That's your constraint. Remember the theory of constraints? Study what's holding you back. You figure out what's holding you back by doing game review, reviewing your games. So you need to do your game review so that you can figure out what's holding you back, and then that's what you need to study and what your constraint is that you've got to put some of your resources towards. Okay, so that's your so that's your study plan. You want to study tactics. You want to play games. You want to study tactics, study what's holding you back, and play and review games. But how much of each do you do, right? Like, what's the split? So there are a few different splits you can do. Um, you can do a 1/3 split, so it's like each is 33%. Um, I think a 1/3 split is pretty good. So a third of your time going to each, a third of your time going to each part. They're going to playing games. They're going to tactics. They're going to studying other stuff. Okay, and I think that's pretty good. Um, and you don't want to like go to any extreme, like just playing games, barely doing any study, or just studying, doing almost no games. You should try to have a good balance with it. And so yeah, that's pretty much this study plan I would follow if I wanted to gain 150 elo in 2 months. Um, and if you want to like get more specific, like how many minutes a day, how many days a week, I would recommend like 30 30 minutes a day, 4 to 6 days a week, probably. Um, Generally, the more time, the more results. But like 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day is plenty. So yeah, that's how I would gain 150 elo in 2 weeks. Before you go, if you're serious about improving at chess, I'm launching my new program, Rating Accelerator, soon. It's for beginner and intermediate players. If you want, you can join the waitlist and you'll get free access to the first week before the public launch. And that's pretty much it.